because I've got a lot of facts that they're ready either way. And I find it's just about a 50-50 split. The people who are motivated by the environmental aspects and the people who are motivated by the economic aspects. And everything that Lynn said, I have experience with directly. Even I know people who've installed solar power 10, 15 years ago, and what I always say is, God bless them, they took it on the chin financially for us to be able to reap the benefits here today. And we can get a return in a third of the time is what historically was happening in 10, 15 years ago. For example, what motivates people to install solar, I give frequent presentations, information about solar power. And I was approached by a woman who'd been to one of my presentations, and she told me that in one of the charts that I show, where I break down the effect of one single solar panel environmentally, and one of the items applied to just one solar panel was its 25-year lifetime. That solar panel will prevent 6 to 11 tons of CO2 being released in the atmosphere. That's a single solar panel over its lifetime. That's not a whole system, one solar. She said that fact, she'd been on the hedge for years about solar power. She said when I presented that fact, that was when she made the decision to go to the other side and install solar power. And now she does indeed have it. So it's, some people just need a little nudge there. They need to hear the right fact or get a few facts straightened out. I study the economics of the solar power equation, and I used to think, for example, that the best way to go is to pay cash, and if you have cash to pay it, that's great. But financing, when I start doing economic number crunching with solar power, and I find that even if you have to borrow money to install solar power, you still get an excellent rate of return on your investment. So that's it just depends on who I'm speaking to, what I need to tell them, what I feel I need to do to get them to make the commitment.
What about PACE?
Sorry?
PACE.
PACE. If PACE is available to you, it's worth something. It's something worth checking out. It's not available where I do most of my consulting.
Okay. What's PACE?
PACE is Property Assessed Clean Energy. It's a fairly unique program in that instead of making payments to a lender monthly, your debt is serviced at the same time when your property tax bill is paid. So it requires some cooperation from your taxing body to have the PACE program in place. And a lot of taxing bodies, city governments, county governments, whatever it may be, are hesitant to enter into this. But it works out depending on where that's done.
Does that include an interest rate, or is that interest free?
Oh, no.
There is an interest rate. So a couple of things I heard from you. You said to go to the other side. So in this case, instead of going to the dark side, you're going to the sunny side. Yes. Audience matters, and their incentive very much matters. And for financing, we actually have a financing presentation today. So if you're interested in that, right after lunch in Hillsborough. So cool leads. Maria, I want to thank you for hosting us today. Youth are increasingly at the forefront of the climate movement. And why does this issue resonate so strongly with young people? And the original question that Scott gave me was, how do we continue to grow the youth involvement in climate and clean energy issues? I want to rewrite that and say, how can we grown-ups support you? Because you are the leaders.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for this opportunity. Well, we understand that climate change is a reality. We have enough scientific evidence that shows anthropogenic made change in the climate is causing effects in the planet that we're seeing today and that we're going to continue to see over the upcoming years. We understand that our future is at stake. And for that reason, it is so important to us for take action, because we want to be able to have a life in the future. We want to be able to enjoy, and we want to our children and the future generations to enjoy of the planet the same way that we're doing it now. For that reason, we need to use more sustainable practices, and we need to transition to renewable and clean energy. when it comes to working together, when it comes to working with an issue as big as this one, I think it's very important to get out of our comfort zone, right? And work with people that are different than us. Because this is an issue that doesn't affect a specific group of people. This is something that affects everybody in the world. And it's very important that we understand that we are in the same boat and we need to put our differences apart when it comes to this situation. We need to put our political differences apart. We need to put our age gaps apart. A really nice example I can tell you. Recently, I've had the opportunity to work with the members of the Tampa Climate Alliance and some members from the Sierra Club. And there's a age gap in there, but it doesn't matter because we all have this same focus. We wanna get working, we wanna get started with the Ready for Clean Energy campaign here in Tampa, and we're thinking of having a kickoff later in November. So it doesn't really matter the age gaps of the people, as long as you have the same goal. I can tell you another example. Now it's not much about age gaps, but people from different parts of the world. Back in June, I had the opportunity to go to the Citizens Climate Lobby Conference in Washington, D.C. We had people from Latin America, from Africa, from Asia, coming together to learn about climate policy, bipartisan climate policy. And it's just so inspiring to see people coming together to get about this issue. So, coming back to the question again, it's just about understanding that we are in this together, and it is together, uniting the forces of the people, that we are going to move forward. Just look back in the 1970s when we had our first Earth Day, and that big Earth Day that happened 50 years ago. It led the way for the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency. It led the way for the creation of the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act. All those environmental changes in the policy were because of people were together in the streets protesting and demanding change. Together, now we need to demand change again, and we need to transition for clean and renewable energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, with the Sierra Club and related Alliance, Solar United Neighbors is working to build a solar army, a core constituency to help deploy solar and fight for solar rights. And you have some experience running campaigns with Ready for 100, with your wife Kathleen's campaign, Run for City Council. How important is constituency building to campaign success? What strategies do you use to build, gather, and maintain strong constituencies?
Yeah, it's a combination of a number of things. It's been my experience. It isn't just a coalition of people like that are here in this room today. Certainly that is a key component of it, and I'll maybe generalize people here as being big advocates for this. It's also building a coalition. In my case, I work with city government, so going to city employees, meeting with them individually, having conversations. I know Alan does this in the city of Dunedin as well. With the council members or commissioners, and having those kind of conversations to build a coalition to the decision makers, let's say, in the city. And then broadening the coalition across residents and businesses. So we have spent a lot of time meeting with businesses individually, having these deep conversations with them, not just for a 1 minute, can you sign this petition, but actually having conversations with them. And I was talking to someone earlier today about, hey, if I drive by a home with solar, especially now with my wife running for city council, we stop at that home, we have a conversation with that person. That leads to things of people, well, I'm interested in helping out with maybe in the case here for me, Ready for 100 campaign. And so there are people out there that are just, you know, doing their job every day, living life, and they might not be activists like maybe some of the people are in the room here, but they want to be involved to support, like Maria was saying here about why it's so important, and join that. So my experience is that it's been really a broad coalition building. And then I guess maybe the last thing I'll mention is really joining with neighborhood organizations. So I'm involved a lot with NAACP, with LULAC, and being there to just be part of their everyday things that they're doing. Tonight we'll be at a Clearwater NAACP Fun Day event. Those things lead to them wanting to help and participate on these movements at some point later down the line. So it's all of the above of those things that I've seen that have worked. And it takes time. I mean, these things do not just happen with the snap of the fingers. It takes a lot of time, investment, and interest to make that stuff work.
Thank you. Lots of time. The people work takes time. Rick, what role can local governments play in solar deployment? What are some of the low-hanging fruits for government officials and agencies seeking to increase solar deployment in their area?
Thank you, Julia. Well, the first thing I think a local government could do would be to assist in sponsoring a Solar United Neighbors co-op. And I know the success that they've had in Orange County. I think they're on about their 6th co-op now. In Hillsborough County, they're just finished their 3rd co-op, and they're thinking about a 4th co-op. And our keynote speaker today, Commissioner Pat Kemp, she's right now the chairman of the Hillsborough Environmental Protection Commission. She came on board and she supported the issue not only with her thoughts and thinking it was the right thing to do, but also with money. And talked with the budget director and put $15,000 into the pot to assist with each co-op. And then they have repeated that. So supporting the co-ops is definitely a thing they can do. They could put solar installations on municipal buildings, on top of fire stations, and so forth. And if you live near Bartow at all, run by the Bartow City Hall, the roof is covered with solar panels. The city manager is just a great believer in this, and they will soon have 20% of the power used in Bartow by residents provided with solar power. So they're wonderful. The Hillsborough County Courthouse is covered with solar panels. So that's definitely something that they can do, that cities can do. Cities can help with financing. PACE came up. Hillsborough County passed PACE. I believe Polk County, where Jeannie and I live, passed PACE also. So that's definitely something that municipalities can do. The bus fleets, they can look at, they run the bus fleets, they can look at not only converting to alternatives to gasoline, but going straight to solar. I think on the campus here at USF, the students helped finance and pay for at least one, maybe more, electric buses. But that is something that municipalities can definitely do. And then finally, I would say commit to Ready for 100. And that's been, it's just such a great story for the mayors and commissioners to tell to the residents that we are wanting to go to have renewable energy, 100% renewable energy by 2040, 2050, and congratulations to St. Pete, Sarasota, Largo, Dunedin, and Safety Harbor. And if I'm missing any local cities, then we'll too. But the Ready for 100 is something that the activists, like the folks in this room, should be pushing their municipalities to try to get involved in that and commit to that in your local communities.
Alan, speaking of cities, you have been involved with the city of Dunedin's Committee for Environmental Quality. What strategies or tactics have helped the city be a good place to go solar? What advice do you give to people who want to engage their local government?
Fortunately, the city of Dunedin was very amenable to the Ready for 100 commitment. It made my job very easy. I did one-on-one meetings with all 5 commissioners, and they all supported the concept. I would say the advice I would make is, as well as trying to do a grassroots campaign or petition drive or something like that, see if you can meet with your city councilmen, commissioners, whatever they might be. See if you can meet with them individually. See if you can find yourself somebody who's really going to champion your cause. You may find resistance, or you may find, in the case of Dunedin, that Dunedin was a city that had a hole in it that looked like the Ready for 100 commitment. It just really worked well for us. We were able to make the commitment in December of last year, and since then, the city has become, to my knowledge, only the second city in the state that's offering a financial incentive for installation of solar power at 25 cents a watt with a $2,500 limit. And they've funded that for $50,000 this year. And also, about a month ago, the city passed a resolution making all new municipal buildings, not existing ones, but all municipal buildings will be net zero energy facilities. So that's progress. And the city is still in the early phases of planning how they're going to implement Ready for 100. But they're moving forward on some things. They're going after low-hanging fruit, and they're looking at some things that are not only symbolic but meaningful. They're both symbolic and meaningful. The solar grants and the net zero building facilities, building ordinance. So I would say get to know your commissioners personally. I kind of cheated at this whole process. I was already personally acquainted with 3 of my 5 commissioners before this started. Now I'm personally acquainted with the other 2 and the mayor and most of the senior city staff. I know now this has been about a 2.5-year process for us. But get involved with your city commissioners, councilman, manager. They might really want to hear what you have to say. They might not, but they just might.
Great, thank you. And talking about going to your elected officials, Lynn, you recently met with your member of Congress, Representative Buchanan, to encourage them to extend the solar investment income tax credit. Can you give us a brief overview of what was discussed, and then share how can you people engage with their elected officials to promote solar-friendly policies? Not everyone's comfortable doing what you did as a representative. What are some other ways?
Yeah, so first off, Representative Buchanan doesn't meet with his constituents. Let's start there. So we met with his assistant, and there was a few, maybe 6 of us, and we came from the angle of, being my husband and I solar homeowners, and how this investment tax credit really helped us make that decision. And as a volunteer with Solar United Neighbors, I saw how that also influenced other people to make the decision. And stress that if that were to go away, that's going to pretty much put a chilling effect on solar in our state. And therefore, would reduce people's options to generate their own energy in a clean way. And also, it helps our economy because Florida is number 2 in solar jobs in the United States behind California. So there's a number of good economic reasons, and that's kind of also when you're going to meet with a representative, you got to understand where their heads are at and what their political message is. It may not be the same as yours, but we understood that Buchanan was, it's all about economics and jobs. The environment is last. So we hammered home the economic argument, and then we also talked about the limited options in our state for people to get solar or use renewable energy because we don't have, solar co-ops are not allowed. We have to get our energy from the 4 big utilities or the municipally owned. We can't purchase it from a third party. And there's also the issue of, there's no renewable portfolio standard in our state requiring the utilities to get a percentage or, most of their energy from clean renewable sources. So we're trying to say that solar is a very important part of this, and that if we were to lose solar in this investment tax credit, it would really kill the solar industry. Another thing that was brought up was resiliency, which I know a lot of the talking points by members of Congress in our state, they won't address necessarily climate change, or the mitigation, but they'll talk about fortifying and, let's throw the walls up so that the water doesn't come over and get us and that kind of stuff. So we talked about resiliency, and that this tax credit also helped with the cost of batteries. And so in the case of a storm, if you have battery backup, you can use that. And that was something that resonated with her, because she knew that was something that resonated with Representative Buchanan. Also, that renewable energy crosses party lines. Is everybody familiar with the 2016 good solar amendment, Amendment 4, and the bad one, Amendment 1? Raise your hand if you remember that. So, that Amendment 4, the good one, was supported by both the Tea Party and the Sierra Club, and we reminded her of that fact. So if she told us that Representative Buchanan was a proponent of solar, and that he banned oil drilling in the Gulf, and we're like, that's great, so let's let him, this is the message I said, is tell him that we would love to see him then back up his words and his actions with, extending this tax credit. So overall, I think that it went well, but again, my point is, if you're gonna meet with you, and our local and our state representatives need to see us, because we know that they're hearing from the lobbyists of the industries. They don't see us all that much, and they really need to hear from us, and they need to be reminded that we vote for them and that they are beholden to us. And if we don't show up and we don't talk to them, they're never going to know that. So, we as citizens have a lot of power, but as Maria said, we have to get together and understand the power of our collective power. So I would suggest you get to know your city commissioners, your county commissioners, your state rep, your state senator, and when you go meet with them, just understand them first, research them, know what's going to resonate with them, and also research your issues so you just stay on topic, have a lead behind so they have the information you talked about, and also I think that was it. So yeah.
Anyways, in your experience, for people who aren't the type of people to meet with them, are there other ways, writing?
Yeah, so if you belong to a nonprofit, an organization, whatever it is your topic is, and if around clean energy and energy legislation, I would say if you are a research type person, you could help put together the data and research the people that are willing to go talk to their legislators, and also letters to the editor are a great way to people still really read the paper, and if you can be looking at different things that are happening in the news recently or timely, and find an angle that will help promote renewable energy, that's another way to advocate.
Phone calls too. To some people, phone calls are very important. It shows that you've actually made some sort of effort with your time, rather than pressing a forward button on an email link or something like that. Pick up the phone, and even if you have to leave a voice message at somebody's office, I was told, I can't remember where, so I probably shouldn't say it, but anyway, I was told that a phone call is worth about 10 emails.
You were talking about
Currency of communication.
You were talking about 4 being the good one, and 1, what was the bad one about?
Yeah, Amendment 1 was basically going to constitutionalize out people's ability to generate their own energy at a very reasonable price, and also limit third-party sales or completely just do away with the option in the future. And FPL got caught with their pants down because they had this consultant meeting with them and talking about how they were going to word this amendment to deceive the public into thinking they were going to be doing themselves a big favor. And I think it was a reporter got it on tape or something like that. Yeah. So I spent a lot of hot sunny days at the early voting for SAFE, Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, educating voters about that deceptive amendment. And I can't tell you how many people were like, oh darn, I wish I had known because I voted for it. But luckily enough people were reached and that came out, and I think that's what really, because I think 76% of people voted against it. So
Actually, that was a last minute save. Actually, it was polling to pass about 2 or 3 weeks prior to the election. It was polling at about 70%, and then the news broke about the quote was political jujitsu.
Yeah.
And also the Florida firefighters pulled their support out from underneath it because they finally realized that they were part of a scam, and it did not pass. It actually got a majority of votes, I think a little over 50%, but it needed 60. But it was just a 2 or 3 minute rallying, or 2 or 3 week rallying period where we staved off disaster actually here for the solar power industry.
So the concept of education, but if we only educate in our circle, so step outside your comfort zone for your education. Great. Rick, folks are getting involved on the local level too. You've been working in Lakeland, Florida to prevent a demand charge from the utility company that targets and essentially penalizes solar homeowners. What tactics have you used to help fight for solar rights in Lakeland?
Okay, let me first, for those of you who are not into the weeds on this, say that Lakeland Electric's position is that non-solar customers subsidize solar customers. And their idea is that even though they're offering net metering, which all the other public utilities regulated by the Public Service Commission have to have straight net metering, like TECO, FP&L, Duke, you have straight net metering. The municipally owned utilities are not subject to that. So they can do something else. They can really do whatever they want, whatever the city commissioners or whoever runs the utility wants to do. So Lakeland has the idea that because in their minds non-solar customers are subsidizing solar customers, they put a demand charge on if you put rooftop solar panels on, and depending on your usage during a peak period, which like in winter starts at 6 a.m. I asked the utility director how you're not supposed to violate the demand charge and end up with a big power bill, even if you have solar panels at 6 a.m. because you're making juice on your roof at 6 a.m. But in the winter you want to put your heat on. He said, well, that's easy. And in my house, I put the heat on at 4 a.m. and then shut it off at 6 a.m. Well, that may work for him, or it may work for some people that then leave their houses at 6 a.m., but a lot of people don't do that. So it's kind of crazy. The Brookings Institute says net metering is in fact a net benefit because of all of the benefits that solar customers offer their utility. And I kind of look at it like, if you have rooftop solar panels, you are in essence a little power plant, and you paid for that power plant with your own money. And you're offering your excess energy back to the power company, back to the city utility in the case of Lakeland Electric. And in our case, we call it LE for short, they're just ignoring that benefit that you are affording them. But I think your question is, what are we doing about it? We're trying hard. We've met with the utility director. Everybody's very professional, polite. We've met, my wife and I, and John and Saranya back there have met with the mayor, and I thought it was gonna be like a 15, 20-minute meeting. It was an hour and a half. He was extremely courteous and nodded up and down as we made our points. He understood it, but we have yet to see something happen. We've met with another city commissioner. We went to the candidates forum a couple of weeks ago so that we made our point in front of all the people running for office. And everybody seems very positive, but still there's no change in Lakeland Electric. We've done op-eds, letters to the editor. We just have to keep plugging away at it before, in the end, maybe you could result to some legal type of action. But I think probably what Lakeland Electric is doing is legal because they run the utility themselves, the commissioners do. So it really probably has to be a political solution in the end. We've got to change their minds about this issue. So you have to keep plugging away at it, and we're trying to even convince Lakeland Electric to maybe get in the business themselves, similar to what Orlando Utilities is doing, where they're trying to actually help themselves, help people get rooftop solar and maybe have it be part of their utility business. It's a struggle. We're convincing, we're trying to show Lakeland Electric that, and the politicians, that if you live in Polk County but you live outside the LE service area, your power bill can be $15 a month. But if you live inside the LE service area, even with solar panels, you're still going to have demand charge, which could be $50, $60, $75, $80 a month, depending on your usage during a peak period.
A question on that?
Yeah, it's kind of just on the approach. I'm wondering if it seems like the net metering law is enshrined at the state level as this is the law, and then the law said, by the way, PSC makes some rules for the IOUs. Can we come at this at a kind of a different level and saying, hey, you're breaking state law? Because it's not necessarily the PSC's rules that govern net metering. It is the state law that says everyone should have net metering. So, I think there's a challenge to JEA at the same time saying, hey, you're breaking the net metering law. This is not net metering. And that's at the state level, not at the PSC level.
Great advice. I'll take that. We'll look into the state law also. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're still pending on our JEA fight, so stay tuned on those decisions. Thank you. Brian, you have done a lot on policy campaigns. Passing 100% renewable commitments is a huge win. While you were running those campaigns, you also focused on helping communities, helping community nonprofits, churches, Habitat for Humanity incorporate solar energy efficiency moves. How do these two similarly different pieces work to stitch your work together to advance solar?
Yeah, I guess I would clarify, it's not just to advance solar. I'd say it's for lowering carbon footprint and for lowering people's energy bills. And so, while we're going after cities and we're also going after our county to set renewable energy goals, I have a personal passion for wanting to help people be able to take advantage of, Alan might have mentioned it earlier, low-hanging fruit. Light bulbs is like one of the best areas of low-hanging fruit, and many of churches, nonprofits, etc., don't even realize that they can change out their 4-foot tube bulbs to LED, and what are the benefits of that. So that's been something that it's become a bit of a sideline activity for me, but I do it for these reasons. I do it because it's an immediate impact. It's not something that is just setting a goal and trying to strive to meet that goal over a period of time. It's you get that benefit now on their utility bill, as well as its net effect back to the generation of electricity. And two is that I see a big potential benefit, and I'm also seeing this benefit come back now, of getting more people educated. So when I go into a church and help them with that activity, it spreads among parishioners. And so I might go and speak to parishioners in a different event that they give me the opportunity to speak. That is part of building a coalition and building people taking their own action. And so I have seen this pick up momentum. This week I was at 2 different churches continuing that very same thing. And there's just many people that don't realize that they have that kind of opportunity. And that leads to, so part of the education I go through is putting spreadsheets together that show them here's going to be their savings. And I also do some translations to say here's how much CO2 will be saved. And here's the number of solar panels that you would need to install on your building in order to get that savings. And here's how much those solar panels would cost if you were going to put those on your building. And this goes back to the low-hanging fruit part of, in the case of these light bulbs, they can get those savings much faster. So that's why I do it, but it's I find that it provides a long-term benefit of getting more people educated, to your point earlier, Julie.
Thank you. Maria, right now you're working with a team here at USF to compete in the Department of Energy's Solar District Cup. Can you tell us a little bit about this project at this point?
Thank you. Well, this project is designed with the purpose of making students gain experience in the industry of renewable energy, specifically solar energy in this case. Our team has a background we have students from undergrad levels, we also have master's students, and we have PhD students leading the way of how to go about this project. For this project specifically, we have to design the solar panels and solar battery system for the Ball State University of Indiana, which was the district that was assigned to our team. Our team is representing the University of South Florida and is mostly made of members of the International Solar Energy Society here at USF. When it comes to this project, we need to take a look to the financial analysis of installing this project, the revenue. We also need to take a look at the conceptual design. And right now we are in the stage of working with the conceptual design. So how are we going to design those solar panels? Where are they going to be installed? So we have a great team of engineering students working on that right now. And I'm a business major, so I don't really know much of the engineering part, but I'm ready for doing the financial analysis when it comes to time. But it's very interesting to see this part of working with people different from different backgrounds, and we're also looking forward to have some environmental policy students join our team so that we can take a look of the policies of Ball State University and how this project will affect the environment and that. So just working with people from different backgrounds and getting this project. We're supposed to submit our first delivery by late November, and after we submit that part, we will likely travel to Atlanta for the conference and compete with other teams all around the United States. So it's gonna be an amazing experience, and I'm very happy that we're competing here at USF. So, thank you.
Yes. Best of luck, and you have a whole slew of supporters here in your competition here. We are nearing the end of the time, but I did want to open this up for any specific questions for our opponent. We have about 3, so I'll go 1, 2, and 3. Is that okay?
Just one quick question and one comment. Do you have any statistics on how much value is added to a home when it's resold, when it has solar on top of it?
We do have a selling your solar home, but it's very generic. She's got a lot more information.
Yeah, so actually Zillow has done the analysis, and the average home, comparable home, sells for about, with solar on it, sells about 4 to 5% more So,
I want to tell everybody, though, the challenge that is in front of Lynn as a real estate professional in solar power. I gave a presentation about a year ago to a Rotary Club and about Ready for 100, and when I mentioned that one of the great things about solar power is it increases the value of your home. Well, realtors stick together, and there was a table of them, and they all disagreed with me that solar power does not increase. So I'm glad that you have a Green Realtors of Sarasota group. There needs to be a chapter in Clearwater.
Yeah, the Zillow's average depends on the marketplace as well, and it's not just the value, it sells faster. So time is money. Selling your home faster is a big. Okay.
The other thing I wanted to mention to your point with regard to the demand charge. I work with nonprofits trying to get commercial level solar in place, and one of the real sticking points is when you get down to FPL, they don't allow their customers to switch to a per kilowatt charge as opposed to a demand charge, which for the reasons that you mentioned make it virtually impossible to make that work economically, because the syndrome, we call it the cloudy day syndrome. One cloudy day and it increases your entire demand charge for the month. And that's typically, somewhere around half of your bill. So it's just, having that aspect of a contract with the utility can wipe out the ability for a great deal of solar.
We had another question?
A twofold question. One, I have Duke, and we got solar power put in about 10 months ago. And we were told Citrus County does not allow battery storage for solar power. And I don't know if you know about that, because I imagine there are some that don't. Another question is when I had my meter switched out because I had the solar on there, and my average bill was about $85. Now, I assumed there wasn't maybe something wrong, but I was happy with it. They switched it out, they put a new meter in, and it says right on it, not synced. And they said, oh, don't worry about that, that's normal. I mean, well, you would think it needed to be synced as a good thing, not synced as a bad thing. I don't know, but now with the solar power on my roof and the changed out meter, my average bill is about $130 a month.
Wow.
And they said there was a problem with the old meter, which was only a couple years old, so I don't know what happened, but I'm unhappy.
Certainly, that's a real troubleshooting thing. We have a lot of help us with Duke as well. So if anyone else, do you want to answer that? Yeah. Do you want to respond to that, and then we'll go to the last one? Because we had a co-op in Citrus, so we want to help you.
Yeah, I just want to say I've never heard of any government body or utility saying that you couldn't have battery storage and they couldn't accept that. So I don't know what the reason is, but I think that somebody in this Congress must have some input that would help you on that, because it doesn't seem right at all.
It's Duke Energy, they're crooks.
We do a lot of battery installations in Duke, so it might be not the right person answering. And we have helped us, we really want to help you with that.
In Lakeland, we have a huge threat and a huge opportunity. Lakeland Electric will be shutting down their old coal-burning power plant, number 3, 360 megawatts. Lakeland Electric itself is leaning toward fossil fuel, natural gas. They're supposed to be considering solar, but Lakeland Electric per se, I don't think is giving a reasonable attention to solar. We're trying to work through the city of Lakeland, which owns Lakeland Electric. We've not had a whole lot of success. We need help from outside, from experts that know a lot more than we do. So please contact Rick or me, John Wing, in Lakeland. We're with the League of Women Voters Solar Committee, and we need a bunch of help before we get 360 megawatts of commitment to 40 years of fossil fuel. Thank you.
So as the last call out for volunteers and grassroots activists, if you can help them out at all, they need your expertise. So I'm sorry we have to wrap it up. The guests will certainly be here throughout the day if you want to ask them some more questions, but we are over time. So it is lunchtime, so we welcome you to go downstairs on the second floor. Lunch will be served out of the plaza room, and you can eat in plaza or Hillsborough across the hallway, so please enjoy. Then we'll be back up here in Oak Room for Commissioner Kemp of Hillsborough County. We'll be meeting here at 1:40, so we have a little less than an hour. Please enjoy your lunch. Thank you so much. Let's thank for our guests.